Hello, I'm Dr. Kimberly Douglas, and I am the chief contributor to the Substack, The Learning Landscape, where we are mapping 21st century learning. Thank you for being here. I am going to build on last week's conversation. So last week I was talking about if you are an entrepreneur or you're a person with really good ideas that you want to develop into a product or service, such as a course or a workshop or a webinar, that it would be a really good idea to work with a person who's already an instructor at a college or university. And cited several reasons, including the fact that people who work as instructors on college and university campuses have access to lots of professional development, professional training. So, training as far as curriculum, design, development, and delivery, training and professional development with regard to using technology and tools such as learning management systems, but just in general, how to lay out curriculum, how to work with students, how to be student centered. And the idea is that you, as the subject matter expert, you don't have to go out there and learn everything there is to learn about learning and about teaching and facilitating learning and developing curricula or a curriculum or curricula. You don't have to go out there and learn it all. What you do is you recruit someone to your team who already has this expertise and you use the expertise. It would be helpful if they're already operating in that same field or related field. That is very helpful. However, it's not required. Even if they are teaching microbiology, for example, people in microbiology have access to teaching and learning development just the same as people in psychology and sociology. And so it's their expertise about curriculum design and development that you're looking for. It is helpful if it's related somewhere in the neighborhood. That's a bonus. That's a plus. So I'm going to flip the conversation and this week and talk to the people who are PhDs or who are already instructors. You know, not everybody who's an instructor at college or university is a PhD, but I'm going to talk to people whose careers are in faculty or who are part of the tenure track, who are clinical instructors. And by the way, in most fields in academia, what we call the terminal degree, the highest degree you can get is the PhD. But inside fields such as Masters of Fine Art, the terminal degree is the master's degree. However, you don't necessarily have to have a terminal degree to be able to teach at the collegiate university level, especially in community colleges. Programs are looking for some combination of academic achievement as well, academic achievement plus experience and expertise in the field. So they are always looking for practitioners that add something and bring something new to the equation. It adds something to the environment it complements the environment by adding people who are on the ground actually doing the work. A lot of times these individuals will show up as adjunct. Sometimes they are on the tenure track. So I thought it would be helpful to just share that information. But this week's conversation is aimed at people who are working in academic settings and who want to get involved in outside projects, who want to supplement their income. I want to remind you that you have lots of skills that could be used out here in an entrepreneurial fashion that could be used to support the projects outside of academia where people want to teach adults, they want to engage adults in learning. So you can work with entrepreneurs, and there are people who don't consider themselves entrepreneurs or who have an idea for a project. This is where someone with the instructor experience and the instructor development can come in and offer something important and of value to the conversation. So the other person can show up as the subject matter expert, and you, as an instructor, experienced instructor, may also be a subject matter expert. So if you are teaching information infrastructure, for example, in information science or library information science, you may partner with the librarian who is developing their own course to place on Coursera or Udemy or Teachable or Thinkific or Kajabi. You can work with them as both the subject matter expert and also as the expert in curriculum development and design. It's very important to really take a look at your expertise. So if you're already an instructor inside academia, inside of an institution, you have access to many resources that you may not think about. You have access to the development, possibly through a teaching and learning center. You may have access, you more than likely have access to a learning management system. So you have that experience and just the overall experience of interfacing with students on a regular basis. Even if you're an advisor, there's a certain amount of teaching and learning that's involved in that role. So you have something that you can borrow from there as well. You can, as an experienced instructor inside of academia, you can be an experienced, what we call an accelerator. So you can help develop a curriculum at a much faster pace than if this person or this team of people were trying to develop this course by themselves. One of the things I want to drive home here is that when you step outside of an institution or an organization to teach a class, and again, you bring so many valuable assets to the team, you are now stepping into an environment that operates very differently. So if you're stepping into this environment with a team that is not attached to an institution or not submitting something for to be used in an institution, you now are stepping into the world of sales. You're stepping into the world of marketing and sales. So what this means is that the systems that you have access to inside of institutions and organizations, your team is now responsible for building these systems. So you have to have the appropriate systems, the appropriate tools, you have to develop new relationships, you have to put a team together that mimics the capability of what you would find inside of an academic institution. So if you join this team, you have to know what your role is. Are you expected to come in as a subject matter expert? Are you expected to come in as a curriculum development expert, curriculum designer, developer, person who delivers? What is your role there? And whatever your role is, regardless, it is important for you to understand how marketing and sales works because marketing and sales is embedded in every step of the process. All through the development process, you have to consider how this will be marketed and how this will be sold. Otherwise, what you have, even if this is the best idea and the greatest course ever, you have something that is sitting on the shelf. Like there are hundreds and thousands of courses sitting in Coursera and Udemy and places like that that are not being used, that are not being accessed, that are not being sold, even free courses. And so the development process takes on a whole new meaning. So if you look at what you do for each semester inside of academia, what you do is you come up with a syllabus and what you develop may be based on previous surveys of students who took the class prior or talking to other instructors who've taught the same course. Um, it could be from focus groups. It could be from your head, and that will be okay. It could be purely based on your expertise. But out here in this part of the world, whatever you're developing has to be sellable. It has to be marketable and it has to be sellable. And the marketing and the sales is part of the entire process. And so one of the most important um, principles in marketing is understanding who it's for. And so as you are developing the curriculum, as you're contributing to to the curriculum, you and the team have to understand who this is for. So let me step back for a moment. Because you have experience inside of academia, there may be this urge or there may be this temptation to just defer to your expertise. And that's okay preliminarily, but you still are operating based on the market forces that exist within markets for this particular course. So even if other people are inclined to defer to your expertise is not the most important thing here. The most important thing is the person, or the most important considerations is who to whom you are selling and what problem you are solving for them. So what problem is being solved by this course? What information gap or what skills gap is being solved by this course? So it's easy to defer to you, right? But that's what happens inside of institutions. But that doesn't work, and that doesn't support the team outside of the academy. So you have to insist. Even if the other people don't recognize this, you have to insist that you're very clear about who you expect to purchase this course. Why would they purchase it? What problem are you solving for them? And so that has to be clear from day one, or not day one, but that has to be clear. That has to be part of your validation process. So one of the things you'll want to do is validate that you understand the problem. So there's validation of the problem, there's validation of the solution that you are offering through this course, and then there's validation of the course itself. And those are different steps, and those are different steps in the process, and they're going to yield you different types of data in the process. So you have to be clear, are you validating the problem? I think that there's a problem. I think that there's a gap in information about how website navigation, but do the people that I'm selling this to perceive that that is also a problem? I believe I have a solution with a course that gamifies website navigation, but do they believe that this is an adequate solution for the problem that they perceive? And then the way I deliver it, I believe by laying it out in a course this way that takes them through 10 steps is the right approach to this process, but do they believe it? So it's about validation the whole way. And there's a level of validation that has to happen out here when you're trying to market and sell a course that may not necessarily happen inside of academia. And I'm not saying that there's not a type of quality control that happens in academia, because there are quality control processes. I'm just comparing in terms of the marketing and the sales threshold is just different. It looks very different out here in the rest of the world. So the validation process is an important part of the process. And even if people want to defer to your expertise, you have to insist on that validation, making sure you understand who the client is, what their problem is, the solution to that, what they will perceive to be a solution to that problem, and then how that solution is delivered to them. All of those things are really important. One of the ways that I validate is doing one-to-one interviews. So you can do one-to-one interviews, you can conduct surveys, you can do data mining, you can hold focus groups to do this. Make sure the homework is being done, right? You have to have more than an idea. So with the interviews, there's a certain rigor that comes with that, especially when you're starting from ground, like with nothing. But even if you're starting with something, in validating the problem, it is very meaningful, very helpful to sit down and talk with people. And I'm actually engaged in this process right now because I'm looking at building something for women PhDs, and I'm sitting down with them one-to-one to talk with them, asking a general, broad, open-ended question in a semi-structured interview format to ask them this question, and then with some structured follow-up questions to just receive data from them, to listen to their language, to observe their body language, to gauge their reactions to this. So there's data that they verbalize, and then there's all kinds of other data that is being transmitted. And so that's part of my validation process. If you're bringing your skills out here to the market, you have to have a validation process. I want to encourage you, if you have lots of experience inside of academia, the environment is chaotic right now. It's important to explore opportunities and to explore your options before you need those options. I don't know what's going to happen with academia, but I see a lot of shifts that are occurring within that part of the landscape. So it's important to start thinking about teams you want to put together or people you want to partner with before you need to partner with them, excuse me, before you even need to partner with them. Sip of water, before you need to partner with them. So think about that. Think about what you bring to the team. Think about the makeup of the team in general and the different sets of types of skills that need to come to the team. But insist on respecting the fact that you are operating outside of academia, you're operating inside of a market, and you have to do the homework. You have to do the validation. You have to make sure that other people on the team are not just deferring to your expertise because you hold a certain degree or you hold certain credentials. That is not enough for market forces. The thing that I had to learn getting out here coming from academia is you have to make money. You have to learn how to make money. And if you don't know how to make money, and I know that sounds so simplistic and like, duh, you need to know how to, but there are tools you need. There are systems you need. There's a mindset that you need. There are relationships that you need. There are processes that you need in order to do that. It doesn't just happen like it's a great idea and then people line up to buy it. There's a whole thing you have to do. And coming from an institution to a market that is essentially worldwide, it requires a shift. Like you have to reframe things. In an institution, things are more incremental, they're more routine, they are fixed, and they have to be. That is not a criticism. They have to be in order to get predictable outcomes or predictable enough outcomes. It's different out here. And so you're starting in a very different place. Your expertise, what you bring to the situation matters a lot, but it does require that validation of recognition of who the client is, the validation of their problem, a validation of their solution, and validation that you're offering things in the way that they need them. And so it requires you to show up differently. I hope that this provides you some information about how to work with people. I want to encourage you to work with people right now where there's no pressure, there's no urgency. Look around and see which subject matter experts you might be able to work with and how your combined skills, your combined expertise complement each other. Look around and check that out. If you have questions, if you need support with collaborating with people, reach out to me. You can email me. You can comment inside the Substack. And I just encourage you to just be open to the possibilities, open to the opportunities, but recognize that you have to show up differently out here than you show up inside of an institution. The same quality that you bring to the work that you do inside of institutions, of course, will be there, but it is a different set of circumstances, different ways of thinking, different ways of being than you experience inside of institutions. I hope this is helpful. I encourage you to reach out. If you at all remotely think that you're interested in putting your own course out there or a course with a team, reach out to me so that we can get the conversation started. There's no pressure to do anything. It just is a conversation about what to do next. Take care.